But for tonight, we have Russ Barneveld. Yay! He's a parent, grandparent, educator, photographer, and an ex-square dance caller, ex-hockey player, and an ex-sailor who lives in Grand Rapids. He got into photography many years ago and then took some time off to work, raise a family, and try other activities. Now that he's semi-retired, and he decided it was time again to share what he saw with others. This jump from film photography to digital images has been both fun and challenging. However, he said, I do miss those endless hours working in the dark room. Not. Thank you for tonight, Russ.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay.
And I don't use Lightroom.
Hold on just a second.
Okay. First of all, yeah, James Zeman was going to help me with the presentation tonight. And he emailed me and Jan this morning, and Evie too, I believe, saying that he was ill and wasn't going to be able to make it. So what we decided to do then is I would carry on myself. And I spent all afternoon re-editing my program because I really didn't feel comfortable talking about James's images and what he was going for and so on. So in my real life, outside of photography, I'm a professor in the College of Education at Grand Valley. Before I went to Grand Valley, I taught in Grand Rapids Public Schools for 32 years. I started teaching when I was like 14 years old. And I was going to be at Grand Valley for a year or two, and this is now my 23rd year at Grand Valley. So yeah, I started when I was like 14. Those who are good at math, now you know how old I am. So anyway, let's talk about 52 frames. And basically, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about or sharing images. I'll share some of the images I've done, but what I really want to do is just kind of talk about the concept of 52 frames. And probably the best way to start this off is I have a little video, which this is the video that I watched and got me hooked on 52 frames. So let's start with that, and then we'll just kind of go on from there.
About 3.5 years ago, I started a photography project called 52 Frames. 52 Frames is a creative community where participants shoot and submit one photo every week for an entire year according to a different weekly photo challenge or theme. You can find a lot of these Project 52s around with people using this concept to post an original song each week or a piece of poetry or even volunteer work. Since 2011, we've grown from a small group of people to over 300 participants from all over the world. We've had photo exhibits, and we have a weekly global audience of about 30,000 people. And these stats have been tripling every year. I'd just like to profile a couple members of our community so you get an idea of who we are. Les is a retiree from New York. Les now guides our New York City photo walks, and he told me that he's learned more about photography in the last 2 years in our project than in his last 65 years shooting photos. And he has not missed a week since starting the project. Anne is a photographer who runs photo tours in Cambodia and documents people's lives as they journey through Angkor. And Akiva, a surgical neuroscientist from Tel Aviv, who enjoys photography when he's not inside somebody's head. We have grandparents and teenagers, amateurs and professionals from all over the world, all of whom share two things in common: a passion for photography and a motivation to improve our skills. It's through this community that I'm able to fulfill my passion for enabling a creative space in people's busy lives, to motivate them to go out each week and take a picture, not for profit, but simply for its own sake. A space for them to grow, to learn, and frankly, just play. Our participants are encouraged to take each theme on as their own. So with the wide diversity that we have in the group, we really begin to see a tapestry of creative interpretation. So I'm going to give you some examples of some previous weeks in our project. This was from last week, week number 7. And the theme was perfect. What would you guys have shot? Here's some examples. It's always that last blade of grass. This photographer is 15 years old. For me personally, this theme was not so inspiring. And then when I see the album and see the amazing creative interpretations, it really opens up your mind to think more and think differently for the next themes. Here's another example from last year. This was week 32, anthropomorphism, which is the attribution of human characteristics or form to anything other than human beings. In other words, the moment you look at a piece of furniture or object and realize it's looking right back at you. He only got confused when I took his photo. This guy's furniture is super happy. This piece of genius is the underside of a table. Are you seeing the table or are you seeing the faces? Another example, this is from this year, home. This was week number 9. And here are some examples. So you really start to see all the different creative interpretations because of the vast mix that we have from people from all over the world. Although sometimes getting the shot each week can be frustrating because of the deadline, it's the weekly deadline that's key. It's the structure of 52 frames that enables creativity in my life. The fact is, most adults today have not had structured time for creativity, genuine creativity, experimentation, or play since kindergarten. You see, as children, our creativity is nurtured. We're given crayons or paints and building blocks. But from grades 1 and on, our creativity is essentially stifled in favor of nationalized testing, rote memorization, and standardized curriculum. Even arts and music classes are graded, and children just don't have the space to fail, and adults barely have the chance to even try. The U.S. leads this depressing phenomenon. In a Newsweek article from 2010 entitled The Creativity Crisis, Dr. Young-Hee Kim reports that since 1990, we've seen a dramatic drop in CQ scores, or creative IQ tests, in children from grades 1 and on. At the same time that our children's creativity scores are waning, our society holds more value for creativity than ever before. In this same article, it identifies a poll of 1,500 CEOs that stated that creativity was the #1 leadership competency of the future. Creativity is the secret sauce most widely attributed to today's successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and startup ventures. Dr. Kim explains that creativity is not something you either have or you don't have, but rather it's a refined muscle that you can grow, make stronger, and continuously condition. It's for this reason I feel we should go back to our creative roots and start having fun again. To create a space where we're learning something and trying something, even failing at something in order to grow. A space where we can act more like children and see the world from a different perspective. This woman is on the floor of an Apple store in California because it was Furniture Week. Yeah. A space where we can stop and smell the roses, or at least.
Okay, so that was the video. I wish you could have heard a little bit better, but that's the video that kind of got me hooked on this. So we're going to talk about 52 frames, and the reason I jumped into it was in my little introduction there, or introduction that Abby read, she talked about, yes, I used to be a square dance caller, believe it or not. I was a sailor for a long time and ex-hockey player. That guy right there, and I played hockey several years together. So, but I needed something to do, and I sold my sailboat and decided we were going to travel around the United States and have some fun and take some photos and so on. We did get to go to Taiwan, where my son lives right now, and I got a lot of photos in there. Right after we got back, COVID kicked in. And I was basically stuck living in the house, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do. And one of the things, I was using an old editing program that they no longer updated. I was running it on Mac and so on. So I decided I got to learn how to use some sort of an editing program. So I started using Affinity Photo, which is kind of a competitor with Photoshop. I think it's a lot better, but we're not going to have a debate about that right now. So anyway, that was how I kind of got back, and I started practicing post-processing and so on, and got a little bit better at it. But and on Sunday afternoons, we would take what we called our COVID distraction ride. And we would just get in the car and we would do what I call the left-right thing, where we'd go down the highway and I'd say, okay, do we go right or left here? And somebody would say, well, let's turn right. And then we'd go for a while. Do we turn right or left? Turn left. Thank goodness for GPS, or we'd never found our way back. But consequently, I really got tired of the subjects around West Michigan. And I always say you can only see so many pictures of the Calder or so many pictures of the Grand Haven Pier, and it kind of gets old. So I needed something to help me, and that's where I kind of jumped into 52 frames. Here you're seeing part of the year, and you might notice in the back there's 3 frames. If you want to see my 52 challenges for the year, I did some prints back there where I have each one of the weeks, all 52. And I did manage to make it through 52. So I was kind of proud of myself about that. So that's how I got into it. Come on.
Russ, how did you actually hear about it?
I was on Facebook, and the link to that video, the TED video, popped up. And I said, I'm going to watch this. It sounds interesting. Luckily, that was late December, and 52 frames year kicks off in January. You don't have to start in January, but it did. So it just kind of worked out nicely. So anyway, the mission, is to basically create awesome photographers and to give you a chance to play, try different things. And the 3 C's, as Joseph calls them, consistency. And what you're trying to do is to become what's called a 52 frames warrior. And you hit warrior status once you complete a complete year. So consistency is important. Now we'll take a look at some statistics later. That's hard to say. Statistics later, where you'll see the numbers kind of go up and down, which means some people are consistent. Others might say, nah, I'm just not going to do this challenge, or I'm too busy, whatever. And I go through that a lot. Becky and Haley can attest to this. I've been complaining the past week about the challenge was called Blur the Action. I absolutely hate blur in my photos. I went round and round and round. I went to a skating rink. I went to a hockey rink. I ended up doing a self-portrait, surprise, surprise. Those of you in the camera club know I love doing self-portraits. But anyway, there are going to be times you don't feel like taking that picture. But the thing is, it does get you out there and trying new things and so on. Community. We're going to talk about community. There are people all over the world doing 52 frames. And it's fun to connect with those people to see what they're doing and so on. And then, of course, creativity. Joseph talked about creativity, the lack of it. It's one of the big things I push. Is trying to be creative. I supervise student teachers right now. And my student teachers get tired of me talking about, let's be creative in the classroom. You know, what can you do other than giving the stupid test or whatever, you know? So I love creativity. Now, consistency. This, and yeah, I'm also kind of a statistics nerd. Okay, this is the past year of 52 frames. And you can see that we started out with just over like 3,300 images the first week. But notice it went up the second week. And that's because some people probably just jumped in and say, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm a week late, but it doesn't matter. You can start at any point. So your exit ticket here, for teachers, you got to have an exit ticket. Your exit ticket is everybody has to sign up for 52 frames before you leave. Okay. Or you're not getting out of here. So notice black and white really popped up there, 3,371. But notice portrait of a stranger. That dropped way down. That one caused people a lot of grief, to get out with your camera and walk up to a stranger and say, hey, can I take your photo? A lot of people dropped off there. I had fun with that one. I live on the west side of Grand Rapids, and right where you get off the expressway at Lane Street, there's I call him Mr. Smiley. He's my favorite panhandler in the world. And he has signs that he holds up and stuff. I went and talked to him. We had a great conversation. He actually isn't homeless. He was a vet who's strictly on Social Security and can barely make it. And he was more than happy to have me take his picture. I did slip him some money. And I told him I'll bring you a photo. I did bring a printed framed photo of him back to him. And when I drove away, it almost brought me to tears. He took the thing out of the package and he's sitting there looking at it. I made it all worth it, you know. So anyway, you can see throughout the year, numbers did drop down. They came back up, which means, yeah, some people said, no, I just am too busy, or I'm not going to do this particular challenge. So, and by the way, you know, as we go on here, if anybody has any questions, just pop in. So, okay, so consistency. I talked about weekly warriors or 52 frames warriors. Notice who's at the top of the list there. And that was as of today. I just went on the site today. So he has done 628 weeks in a row. Now, I was going to go on my phone and figure out, anybody good at math in their head? That divided, that's a lot of years, okay? So this is called the Hall of Fame. And notice there's quite a gap there, but still a lot of people hung in there for a long time. Now, in particular, two people really stood out. And what I did was, we're going to talk more about community eventually, but I put a post on Facebook asking people what they loved about 52 frames and what they hated about 52 frames. I got tons and tons of replies. The one I loved the most was from Fiona, who I think is in England. I'm not sure. I should look up where she is. But notice, she started her streak in 2015, and it's evidence of her existence. But notice there she talks about her mom broke her had a stroke, her daughter was sick, and so on. But she still persisted and pulled that off. The other one that really caught my attention is the one on the right. Dave Lowe, who is going through a bout of cancer, and he's still hung in there and worked through it. So it's really a great release for people. You know, it really gives them a chance to get out and kind of forget about your problems, you know, and have some fun and learn some stuff. So.
Are you still doing it today?
Pardon me?
Are you still?
Yeah, I just submitted week 3 today. And your streak continues. So like when I log in, it'll say my streak is now 55 weeks or something like that. So these are the weekly warriors from last year. The number of people actually did the 52 weeks. Notice James is there. I'm down there somewhere. So, yeah. And community. As I mentioned, they're all over the world. And I have not put my pin in, and I think this map is way behind the actual number of people who have actually taken place. The ones I love, being an ex-sailor though. Notice this one right up there in the corner. Oops, it disappeared. Anyway, there's a lot of people who claim they're in the ocean, which maybe they were. When I sailed, I loved sharing pictures on Facebook, and I might be, you know, in the middle of the Manitou Passage and I post a photo. So yeah, maybe they checked in when they're in the ocean. But as you can see, they're all over the world. And that's one of the fun things, is sharing with people, seeing what they look at, seeing their creativity and so on. So. Okay, and then as far as community, you get a lot of support. So every week on 52 Frames, you will get an email, and on the left is the email for week 52 last year. And it was, oh no, not week 20, I don't know what week it was. Anyway, the challenge was a roll of 24, which means going back to old film days when you'd have a roll of 24 shots. To make this challenge work, you could not shoot more than 24 images to choose your one image that you were going to use for the week, okay? And then there was an extra challenge on this. We'll talk about extra challenges. The extra challenge was one shot, which I did. I had something in mind right away and parked my car, didn't even check, didn't even put a coin in the meter, ran to the corner, took the shot, came back, and I had my one shot. But anyway, so you do get that email, which reminds you what the challenge is. And then there's also an online group, the 52 Frames photographers, where they talk about the challenge, they give you resources, they give you tutorials that you can view, and basically talk about the challenge itself. And people can share questions and so on that. So, okay, then if the community isn't large enough with what we just talked about, there are little mini groups you can join. Okay, so I happen to be in one called 52 Frames Minions, and this was just a small group that when you sign up for 52 Frames, you can say, I would like to be in a mini group. And they basically assign you a group of new people and you form your group. So in this group, the gentleman in the sweatshirt there was in Denmark. We had a person in Sweden, person in Germany, person in DC, pretty much spread out all over the map. So that's one. Because I use Affinity Photo, there's also 52 Frames for Affinity Photo, where people can say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm having problems figuring out how to do this with my software, and you can log in and get help on that. There's also a 52 Frames Black and White, and there's a 52 Frames Michiganders, and we just started a brand new group. Becky's in it, Haley's in it, Richard's in it, Evie's in it, called 52 Frames Grand Rapids. Did I miss anybody who's in the group? Okay, so we just started our own little group where, again, as we work on a challenge, we share images, ask questions, and so on. So, okay. Now, I mentioned that I contacted, as I mentioned, I like to do self-portraits. Okay. As I mentioned, I put a post on Facebook asking pros and cons of working with 52 Frames. There were lots of different answers, but these were the ones that came up the most. People love sharing their work with others around the world and getting comments on their work. The best part was learning new things without being judged. And that's one of the mantras of 52 Frames, is to embrace imperfection. It's hard to do. For me, it's really hard to do. But anyway, that is the good part. It's not a competition. You're not judged. It's just having fun sharing your work. The other one, which is true, the challenge gives me a break from responsibilities, lets me go out and have fun. So, but lots of other great comments. Now, some of the cons, these were the ones that came up the most too, and I can identify with every one of them, okay? Framer's remorse is once you submit that image, you can go back and resubmit a new image if you want, but you can only submit one a week, yeah. And it has to be taken between Monday morning at 12:01 a.m. and Sunday night at 11:59 p.m.
They cut it off right at the second.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Right.
I missed it and I emailed them and then let me send it in.
Did they really?
Yeah, I emailed them at 12:02. I'm like, my computer froze. What can I do?
Well,
'Cause
Becky,
y'all know I wait till the last
I'm going to call them and complain.
You could probably talk your way out of a traffic ticket too, and I've never been able to.
Pardon me? Your local time, yeah. Yeah, since people are all over the world, yeah, yeah. But Framer's remorse is when Sunday at midnight, you send in that image and you go, oh, I really didn't like that one, but oh, well, okay. A day too soon, that's happened to me. You're wandering down the street and you see this wonderful thing that's gonna fit next week's challenge. Doesn't work, can't do it, okay? Or a day late. Okay, Monday afternoon, you find something that would have been perfect for the week before.
But they inform you what the upcoming
Yes.
challenges are going to be. So maybe you can't go out and photograph next week's challenge, but you can be looking for
Yeah.
it. You can be thinking about it, which I do frequently.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
And
do.
Becky and I are already planning the next couple weeks in advance here. So guess what's coming up again? Portrait of a Stranger. And when I approached the panhandler and said the assignment is Portrait of a Stranger, he said, well, they don't get any stranger than me. So, okay. Okay, advance. There we go. Okay, creativity. I'm not going to spend much time here, but Sir Ken Robinson is one of my heroes. He was at Grand Valley a few years ago and did several presentations on creativity. I love his concept. I love what he stands for and so on. And the more creative we can get, the better. Okay. The big one that I don't know if you could hear it when Joseph was in the video there, but mentioning that even art classes and music classes are graded. Yeah, okay. My granddaughter is a budding artist and is going round and round with her art teacher because she's wants to do things the way she wants to do it, not the way the art teacher wants her to do it. So yeah. Okay, so anyway, we try to be creative. Okay. Now, so the focus of 52 frames is creativity, embrace imperfection, which I told you is hard for me. You're encouraged to think outside of the box. That one I love. It's not high-tech equipment driven. I think you mentioned you have a Nikon D5600. That's what I use. Yeah. Kind of an entry-level Nikon. I see no need for anything else. But lots of people shoot with iPhones. In fact, when I started 52 frames, I thought maybe I'll go the whole year just using my iPhone. But what I ended up with was maybe a 50-50 split, because when you're driving down the street and you see something that's going to fit the challenge, you got your phone, you don't have the other one. What's the best camera? The one you have? Yeah. Yeah. So it's not high-tech driven. It's also not high skill for editing. I get carried away with my editing, but that's kind of my hobby. So I love post-processing. In fact, for me, the actual process of taking the photo is tedious and boring. I really hate taking the photo, but I can't wait to get home to start processing it and playing with it. So that's where my creative. Yeah, yeah. And maybe it's because I've been doing this forever. Larry Heidenberg and I have been doing this since when, Larry? I don't know, long time ago. How many? 51. There you go. Okay, I was in the club 51 years ago and then kind of left and came back. Okay, and it's not a competition. So Okay. These were the challenges for last year. Okay. And every year you start out with self-portrait. Yay, love it. But you'll notice next to each one of them is an extra challenge. So if the challenge itself isn't enough for you, you can try the extra challenge if you want. It doesn't get you anything extra. You don't get extra points. You don't get credit for two.
That means that your one image
Has to incorporate both.
incorporates
Right.
both elements. of
Right.
the challenge.
Yeah, so like the self-portrait a year ago, the extra challenge was to use Rembrandt style lighting. Well, if you didn't know what Rembrandt style lighting is, you can look it up and learn a new technique. I probably cheated a little bit on it. I said I did the extra challenge. I came up with a new style of Rembrandt lighting, which was called from below Rembrandt lighting. And you'll probably see that image later. But anyway, so you have the challenge and you have the extra challenge. Notice some of them, 1/2000ths or faster. Light painting, that was a fun one to do for an extra challenge and so on. So some of them, do require extra equipment. There was one, I don't see it right now, but it was to use the tilt shift lens. And I'm sure if James was here, he would have talked about that because he has one.
How do you do that if you don't own one?
Pardon me?
How do you do it if you do not own it?
Then you just don't worry about it. Yeah, because they're not required. It's just if you want a little extra challenge.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's the extra challenge. So, okay. And like I said, in the frames back there, you'll see my 52 from the year. So, okay, when a challenge comes up on their website, and if we have time, we'll look at the website, but we probably won't. Anyway, every week you'll get an announcement saying what the challenge is. So like week 49 was shoot from below. Okay, week 50 was that roll of 24. Week 51, break the rules. I love that one. I love breaking the rules. And then week 52 is redo for those people who had framers remorse. You got one more chance to go back and redo one of the challenges if you want to. Okay. So after they announce them, then also on the website, there's a description of the challenge right here. Boy, that mouse moves. Okay. Description of the challenge, and then also a description of the extra challenge. Okay. Now, my approach. This is just my approach, and the reason I really wanted James to help me with this is James has a whole different approach to the 52 challenges. He's a little more tech oriented than I am, a little more equipment oriented and so on. So he kind of views it differently, but so you're going to get my warped view of 52 frames. Okay. So when I see the challenge like this one, water, okay. I say, what's the challenge? Water. Okay. Then I ask, what are the majority of people going to do? They're going to go to the river, they're going to go to the lake, they're going to go to the ocean. And then my next thing is, okay, I've got to do the complete opposite. Okay, because I just want the challenge of being a little more creative. Okay. And will it fit into my plan? Then I also use the Joe Timmer philosophy. Now, I don't know if enough of you have been around long enough to remember Joe Timmer, but he was a member of the Camera Club back in film and darkroom days, and he did the most creative photography that I can imagine in the darkroom. Really good. But his big comment always, amongst other very colorful comments, but his best comment that I remember is Joe said, if you're entering a competition, make sure the image that you enter you like, because if the judges don't like it and you don't like it, nobody's going to like it. Okay, so that's the motto I use. And I found that if I post my image on one of the sites, one of the group sites on Facebook, and 25 people respond, or 50 people respond, 25 are going to love it, 25 are going to hate it. What have I gained? Nothing. So for me, I say, okay, this is it. I love it. You know, no debate. Okay, but it's not a competition. It's you have to please. So, okay. Oh, and I try to think outside the box. By the way, this was week one for 2023 was self-portrait. And that was my self-portrait. So I paid all this money for that academic regalia and I have to use it once in a while. So, yeah. Okay. Oh, and that was my photo for water. Okay. So it's not a lake, it's not a river, it's not an ocean. I had more fun with that one. That's my old sailing hat, fall weather hat. And yes. Pardon me? What I did was I took a light stand, set it up in the backyard and put a hose with a clamp on it. And then I had another light stand where I put the hat on the light stand and focused on the hat. And then when I sat down where the light stand was, I put my hat on and I had let the hose run way too long. It was freezing. So I didn't have to fake that face.
That's an awesome picture.
Thank you.
But I gotta ask you, maybe you won't tell us. How many frames did you have to take to get that awesome picture?
I did probably 10.
It's not bad.
And I just made faces.
Was this with a cell or was this with your big camera?
Pardon me?
Was this with your DSLR?
Yes. What I did was I have a remote. I put it in a plastic bag and just sat there, snapped pictures and made funny faces and stuff. Yeah.
That's really, that's
Yeah. So,
awesome picture.
okay, so creativity. Here's a challenge I'm going to ask you about. You're all 52 framers now. The challenge is common object. What would you shoot? Anybody ideas? Pardon me?
I said toilet paper rolls.
Oh, there you go. That would be fun. So anyway, that was the challenge was common object. Okay. This is what some of the people did. Okay. Now on the website, you can go to challenges, click on current week or any week during the year, and you can scroll through and see all 3,000 photos as they come by. So this is what some people did. This is what I did. Anybody know what it is? Yeah. It's my lawn chair. No, this was one of those a day too soon when I came up with the idea. But like Richard said, you can always do it the next week. Well, here was the problem. I like to get up in the morning in the summer with my coffee and go out and sun myself on the deck. And I was sitting there noticing the shadows of the table it was like 10:30. So the next week when I could actually shoot the thing, guess who was out there at 10:30 in the morning with his cup of coffee, except the clouds weren't right. I didn't get the shadow. Okay. So it took me 3 different days before I actually got
In the right week.
in the right week. Yeah. Yeah. So
That's kind of the fun of it too.
It is,
It's-
yeah.
It's a challenge.
right. Yeah, and any of you who've done 52 frames, Becky or Haley, pop right in.
I just got that sun was shining right down onto my wrist. It didn't look like it was in the basket. So I took a picture of it.
There you go. Okay, here's another one, golden hour. Okay, so what are most people gonna do? Sunsets. Can you have a golden hour in the morning?
Yes, you can.
I think so. I never get up early enough to see a sunrise. I just take people's advice or, you know, it exists, okay. Okay, so golden hour. This is what some people did. So yeah, mostly sunsets, cool stuff. I like the light bulb. And this is what I did. Okay. This started out as a nature shot of just the mushroom, kind of a standard shot. I might have entered it in camera club competition, I don't remember. But I have these little figures that my wife bought online. I just love these little guys. I've done a whole series called Forest Fantasies. And this is part of the Forest Fantasies. In fact, I'm going to have a one-person show at Lowell Library, and I think it's April or May, something like that. And it's going to be all my Forest Fantasies, kind of a kids-oriented thing. But
Those are the magical mushrooms that you indulge in.
yeah, that helps you think out of the box. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, what I did, I added my little forest creatures there, messed with the saturation and stuff to kind of make it look like golden hour. In Affinity Photo, oh no, that was Neo. I use Neo also, Luminar Neo for processing. And there's a new function in it now that lets you do the light beams. So yeah. So that was my my take on golden hour. Now, I talked about the extra challenges that you can do. You have the challenge, the extra challenge. Well, Russ came up with his own personal extra challenge. And what it is, okay, the challenge was peace, okay? And that was my image for peace. And if you look close, the magic mushroom is there. And yeah, okay.
There's a theme going on.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my image for peace. And I think I might have entered this in club competition once, yeah. But my extra challenge is I actually really love writing, but I don't have enough time to do it. So I decided when you submit your photos, you can always enter a description of the photo. And most people will say, okay, I shot this, 125th of a second at f4 with an ISO of such and such on a tripod, blah, blah, blah. I try to do something more fun. Okay. So as you can see here, oh, and because I do so many self-portraits, notice how it started. Oh my God, that face is back again. Yep, I put my favorite model to work one more time. I always tell people the reason I do so many self-portraits is I'm the only model I get along with. Okay, or the only model that I can put up with. Yes.
Would that picture qualify as taking a picture of a stranger?
Yeah, it should have. I don't see why not.
So this is a composite with multiple images.
Yes.
Correct? Do you have to have taken all the individual elements of this image?
Not necessarily. In a composite, no, as long as you have a base image that was taken. So the base image was this, me in the backyard. My favorite music group is called Magic Bus. They're out of Detroit. They played at the Lowell concerts the last couple of summers. And they played at Hippie Fest. Imagine me going to Hippie Fest. No. So the little statue thing here in the vehicle, that's their actual tour bus, the little Volkswagen bus here and so on. So, but the base image was taken that week. Yeah. And sometimes if you get carried away with composites, when you submit your picture, it does check the metadata to see when it was taken. But if there isn't metadata that it can recognize, you can say, I took it during this week, but it's kind of, you're on your honor then, but yeah. So not all those elements were shot that week, but yeah. So anyway, I love doing the descriptions of things and that extra challenge of trying to write every week. Every year I tell myself that I spilled. Every year I tell myself I'm going to start writing something every day, but it's hard to do. So at least once a week I do get to write. Now, it's not a competition, but there is something called 52 picks. And what 52 Picks is, there's a committee of people, and you can volunteer to be on this committee. They're called whittlers, where they whittle down the images. And what they do is this group of people go through all the images that are submitted. Now, I don't know if each person gets a certain amount or not. I've never been a whittler. But I did ask the person who runs the website how it works. And she said, well, they're just kind of picking their favorite photo. Doesn't mean it's the best one, doesn't mean it's great. It's just whatever that particular person likes, they will submit it for a 52 pick.
It also is 52 picks out of maybe 3,200 entries. So it's a special.
Yeah, but it's not a competition.
Oh,
Yeah. The other thing is, she mentioned that many times the people who go through these will say, well, this person is new to 52 frames, and it's a pretty good picture. I'm just going to pick them to kind of inspire them. Okay. I was lucky enough to get 2 of them. Okay. Haven't gotten one since. Now, the 52 picks come out on Wednesdays. Today's Wednesday. I didn't get an email, so I didn't get picked this time. Pardon me? Oh, they aren't out yet? Oh, I have a chance.
I think you'll get it.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, you recognize that one. This one was, the challenge was lamps. Lamps. And the extra challenge was a single light source. I shot that with a window light, I believe. So I was surprised that one got picked, tell you the truth. But,
Question, is that the only way you receive feedback is through the whittlers?
no,
That's why.
yeah,
Curious
and
about.
we'll talk about that in a second. In
Okay.
fact, maybe next. So it's not a competition, but there is the 52 picks. Now, you'll also notice there's a 1, 2, 3 up here. And those are picked by Joseph himself and the gal who runs the website, Susan Blackstein or something is her name. They pick their, and maybe there's one more person, they pick their favorites. And those are the first 3 to come up all the time, so. Okay.
Of yours. The first 3 that of yours
No, those are what they picked is what they think are
from that group. It was their favorite.
their favorites, yeah. Yeah. Okay, now, I talked about imperfection. I want to talk about my least favorite image of the year, okay? There it is right there. Every time I look at it, I go, oh, what were you thinking? Okay, the challenge was unexplored. And that's the Padnos Recycling Center over on Butterworth. And I'm always fascinated by their piles of junk, metal shavings and so on. So I thought, well, I'm going to do that. At the time, we were doing the edit challenge stuff. And I was getting carried away with mirroring stuff. And I got carried away. I found something called Ripple. So I said, okay, I'm going to flip this. I'm actually going to put a pond there and I'm going to ripple it. And the extra challenge was include a stranger. Well, I had this picture of this homeless person. I said, okay, I'll just pop him in. Well, at that time, I wasn't good at doing, and I'm still not good at it, but I'm getting better at doing composites. So I said, okay, I'll throw him in. It's terrible. Every time I look at it, I go, ugh. So anyway, there's my remorse. Okay. But so yeah, they don't all have to be perfect. Okay. But I had fun putting it together at the time. Now, my most favorite and most fun is this one. And the challenge was food. And I said, okay, most people are going to take a picture of their lunch or their breakfast or do a tabletop, you know, like a magazine shot or something. So what can I do that's weird? So I call this Make Good Choices, was I think how I titled it. And I had more fun shooting this because the carrots were easy, okay? I went to Family Fair and shot pictures of the carrots. And then I went to their donut section in the bakery. And people were buying donuts. And I looked and I said, okay, it's perfect now. Somebody go there and grab a donut. And they messed up my whole setup. But eventually I went back 3 days, in fact, before I got a set of donuts I wanted. Then I said, well, it's not bad, but let's go with the devil and the angel also. Now, those are just clip art things that I found online. But so that was my favorite image, my most fun image. Okay. Now, my favorite challenge was they had a challenge called Edited by Another or Editor's Choice, might have been what it was called. So on the left, there's my original image. Okay, that hat I bought in Key Largo. We sailed from Miami to Key West one year and stopped in Key Largo, and I bought that from the Mango Man on the dock. So the Buffett songs, you know, the Mango Man, there is one. Okay, that shirt my granddaughter gave to me has skulls, flamingos, and sunglasses on it. Great shirt. I love it. Okay. So someone else had to edit it. And I mentioned my granddaughter, Lily, is a budding artist. She's also really good at photography and good at post-processing. So I gave her the image. The one on the left is her take on it. Now notice she put some skeletons in the background and so on. And I loved it so much that it inspired me to do the bottom one. Okay, so that was not part of the challenge. The actual image that went in was the one that she did. Okay, so that was right. James had Randy edit his. So yeah, but then that kind of inspired me. I said, you know, I got to have the flamingos as skeletons and so on. So, okay. The other reason it was my favorite challenge was I mentioned my extra challenge of having to write something, okay, every week. So that was what I wrote. And I said, yep, couldn't resist. The extra challenge was self-portrait, which it was, okay. I know this is 3 weeks in a row now, but I promise next week won't be a selfie. And I think the challenge is next week couldn't be a selfie. So, okay. And then I talked about the shirt. The other reason was I love the comments I got on it. You know, they gave Lily some really nice comments about her editing and so on. And they even claimed that I was a good grandfather. Who knows? You know. But anyway, so that was my my favorite challenge. And then I mentioned the last one was redo. Okay, so I did have a chance to redo one of my remorses. And you thought I would have picked the other one, right? The one I thought was bad. This one was even worse. Okay. The topic was abstract. And at that time, I had this thing with mirroring images again. In Affinity, they have a mirror function that you can do all kinds of really cool, funky stuff with it. But that's in a cemetery, and I kind of got carried away with it. So anyway, so my redo was this one. And that was inspired by a Salvador Dali image. And strangely enough, right after I did this one, Randy did one of Salvador Dali image also. So it was kind of fun. But and this one, abstract, and I played with a new function that I hadn't tried before, which is called liquefy, where you can mess with things. Okay. Yeah, dolly it up, right? Yeah. What's that? Yep, more mushrooms involved with that one. So, okay. So anyway, if you're interested in 52 frames, there's the site, 52frames.com. And if you want to partake in it, you just go to that site, say, okay, I want to do this, and you start doing it. And remember, this is week 3 is going on. You don't have to start at the beginning of the year. You can jump in at any point. So yeah, I would encourage you to.
Website only. It's not a mobile app, correct?
No, it's website. Yep. 52frames.com. So anyway, my challenge to you is, you know, if you want to do 52 frames, fun, do it. But there are lots of other challenges. The one I love, which I should really do in my basement is the decluttering challenge.
Yeah.
The writing challenge, another one I should have done. And if I was brave enough, I might try the painting challenge, but so. Oh, okay, I mentioned my reverse Rembrandt lighting. The one on the left, that was self-portrait week number 1 for 2022. Pretty scary, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what I see in the mirror every morning when I get up. So. So anyway, you know, if you ever have questions, my email address is up there. And also I have a website on pixels.com where I share other stuff. And then you can also go to specific people's 52 frame sites. You go to the website and then you can click on their name and see all their entries. So, and if anybody's interested, like in a PDF of this or anything, send me an email and I can make it available.
So what happens if you miss a week?
You just jump back in the next time.
Just don't become a warrior.
You're just not a warrior then. Yeah, you start out with zero streak again.
The percentage of people who are consistent versus the percentage that are not.
That I'm not sure. Yeah. As you could see from that chart, it kind of went up and down. And yeah, a lot of, you know, with the starting of the year now, there's been a lot of comments on the different sharing sites saying, you know, I had fun with this, I just have to take a break. Or people like the self-portrait. People are just really uptight about that. So a lot of people skip that and they'll jump back in next time. Or portrait of a stranger, a lot of people bit the dust on that one. I almost bit the dust on the blur, right, Becky? Now, Becky just started and Haley just started. You want to make any comments?
Summer, fun, got me to go out and do things I wouldn't have done, build up my portfolio collection,
Yep, good,
gives us some pop that.
sure. Yep, yeah, and Becky and I and James and a couple other people had a little online group, but now we switched over to that 52 frames GR, so, yep. And Abby, you just kind of jumped in too, didn't you? I know you're over here somewhere.
Yeah.
And what do you think so far?
The thing I like about it is it gives you a full week to do something, but it can force me to get out there and say, hey, you know, it's turning out to be Sunday and I haven't taken anything yet, so it gives me the incentive to go out and shoot.
Okay, cool.
And I met another person with CRPS.
What's that?
I met another person with CRPS.
Oh, did you really? No kidding. Cool. And next week, guess what the challenge is? Portrait of a stranger. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have. That was long enough anyway. So.
That being said, any new people want me to take their picture?
Actually, what I
Do you have any other questions?
now I just thought of it. If it was next week, I could have brought my camera, stood up here and taken a picture because a lot of you were strangers to me. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, any questions, comments? As you can tell, I have fun with it, so maybe too much fun. My student teachers always say I have too much fun. So. And do check out the Russell's year. All right, I'm done.